The first time I saw her, I almost laughed. Not because she looked funny, God, no. She was breathtaking in a way that made my chest tighten, but because the universe had the audacity to place someone like her in front of me, knowing damn well I wasn't ready. Her name was Claire. Miss Claire Monroe, the new English teacher at Rosewood High. Everyone else saw a strict, put-together woman who graded essays with merciless precision and kept her hair tied back in a neat bun like she was hiding her soul inside it. But I saw something else. I saw the shadows behind her eyes, the weariness in her smile, the way her fingers trembled slightly when she thought no one was watching. And maybe that was the moment I knew I was doomed. I wasn't supposed to fall for her. She was older, my teacher, and worse, she had a chilled little girl named Emily with curly hair and the same tired eyes as her mother. Claire carried herself like a woman stitched together from too many broken pieces, yet still standing tall for the sake of someone else. And me? I was just Olivia Sanders, a 20-year-old community college student, trying to patch together my own messy life after years of feeling invisible. We shouldn't have collided, but we did. And every glance, every accidental brush of her hand against mine, felt like a spark too dangerous to ignore. Rosewood wasn't a town where secrets survived. People liked their lives simple here, and anything that didn't fit the mold was picked apart until it bled. The gossip ran faster than the trains that cut across the town's edge. And Claire was an outsider the moment she arrived. The whisper started quickly. She's divorced, you know. No, the husband died. A car accident. Tragic. I heard he left her. Couldn't handle the pressure. Whatever the truth was, Claire never confirmed it. She smiled politely in the grocery store, walked Emily to the park on weekends, and kept her distance. And I, like a fool, kept watching from the shadows, caught between admiration and something far more dangerous. It wasn't until the night of the school fundraiser that everything shifted. The gymnasium was decked out in cheap streamers and the smell of baked goods clung to the air. Parents mingled with teachers, kids ran wild, and I stood awkwardly by the punch bowl, wondering why I even showed up. And then I saw her. Claire in a simple navy blue dress, hair down for once, soft curls framing her face. She was laughing, actually laughing with one of the other teachers, and the sound was so rare it felt like a secret. I must have been staring too hard because suddenly, her gaze found mine across the room. The world stilled. Her lips curved into a small, hesitant smile, one just for me. And against all logic, my feet started moving toward her. "Olivia," she said when I finally reached her. Her voice was calm, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of something else. Recognition. Curiosity. Maybe even longing. "Miss Monroe," I whispered back, because my throat was suddenly too tight to manage anything else. She tilted her head, amused. "You don't have to call me that. Tonight I'm just Claire." Just Claire. Those words sank into me like a promise I knew I couldn't keep. The days after that night blurred into something I can only describe as torture. Every class, every hallway encounter, was a battlefield of stolen glances and quiet restraint. Claire never crossed a line. Not once, but the air between us was thick with what we weren't saying. And then came the storm. It was late October when the first real confrontation happened. The rain had turned the parking lot into a river, and I was waiting under the awning, drenched and shivering because my damn car wouldn't start. Claire appeared like a ghost, holding an umbrella, her brow furrowed with worry. "You'll catch pneumonia out here," she scolded gently, ushering me under the umbrella. I wanted to tell her she was the reason my heart raced more dangerously than any fever. Instead I blurted, "Why do you always look so sad?" The question stunned us both. Her lips parted, then closed again. For a moment I thought she'd walk away. But instead she sighed a sound so heavy it carried years of silence. "My past isn't something I can just forget," she said softly. "And sometimes, it follows me into the present." I didn't push her, but I couldn't stop myself from whispering, "I don't care about your past. My voice cracked. I just care about you." Her eyes widened. And for the first time, Claire looked at me not as a student, not as a stranger, but as someone who could see her. Truly see her. She didn't kiss me that night. She didn't touch me. But the way she looked at me, God, it was more intimate than anything else in the world. Of course Rosewood noticed. The rumors twisted quickly. Claire's reputation became fuel for small-town tongues, And I became the reckless girl tangled up in it all. We tried to stay away from each other, to keep the boundaries intact, but desire doesn't bow to rules. It grows in silence, in glances, in the space between two people who should never touch but can't stop thinking about it. And it grew between us until it became unbearable. The night it finally broke, I'll never forget. Claire had invited me over under the pretense of helping Emily with the school project. The house smelled like vanilla and old books, and Emily had fallen asleep on the couch surrounded by crayons. When I turned, Claire was standing in the kitchen doorway, watching me with an expression that stole the air from my lungs. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. "Then tell me to leave," I whispered back. She didn't. Instead, she crossed the room, her steps hesitant but unstoppable. And when her hand finally brushed mine, I swear the whole world tilted. "Olivia." My name broke on her lips, fragile and trembling. I closed the distance. Not with a kiss, not yet, but with the certainty that no matter how wrong it seemed, what we had was real. And when her arms finally wrapped around me, pulling me close, I knew there was no turning back. That was the beginning of everything, of love that felt both forbidden and inevitable, of battles against judgment and fear, of nights filled with whispered confessions and mornings stolen from reality. But it was also the beginning of healing for both of us. Because Claire wasn't just my teacher. She wasn't just a single mother carrying the weight of a broken past. She was the woman who taught me that love, no matter how complicated, could be worth the fight. And I was determined to fight for her. They say small towns have big mouths. By the time I woke the next morning, I could already feel the weight of the whispers pressing against my ribs. It wasn't just paranoia. Rosewood's gossip spread faster than wildfire, and all it took was a single glimpse seam leaving Claire's house late at night, maybe the way my hair was a little too messy, or how her porch light burned longer than usual. By the end of the week, I could feel eyes on me wherever I went. At the grocery store. At the library. Even when I drove down Main Street, where shopkeepers swept their stoops with practiced nonchalance. They didn't need proof. In Rosewood, suspicion was enough to ruin someone. But what hurt most wasn't the judgment aimed at me. It was knowing how it might crush Claire. She was quieter than usual at school. Her posture straighter, her hair pinned tighter, her voice clipped as if she was armoring herself against invisible blows. But her eyes, those damn eyes, betrayed the truth. Fear. Guilt. Longing. I wanted to reach across the desk and touch her hand, to remind her she wasn't alone. But walls had gone up again, and for days I couldn't find a way through them. Until Friday night. The storm outside was merciless, wind thrashing against the windows of her small house. I hadn't planned on being there, but my phone buzzed with a text I never expected. "Claire, can you come? Please." 2 words, fragile and heavy. I didn't even think. I drove through the downpour, heart pounding harder than the rain against the windshield. When she opened the door, she looked nothing like the polished teacher Rosewood knew. Her cardigan was pulled tight around her shoulders, her hair damp, her face pale. "I shouldn't have asked you," she whispered, but her eyes said otherwise. "You don't have to explain," I murmured, stepping inside. The living room was dim, lit only by the flicker of a candle on the table. Emily was asleep upstairs, and the silence wrapped around us like something sacred. Claire's hand shook as she set down a mug of tea, and before I could stop myself, I reached for her. Her fingers clung to mine like a lifeline. "I can't keep doing this," she said, her voice breaking. "I can't keep pretending I don't want you here." But if people find out, I cut her off, my chest aching at the way her tears caught the candlelight. Let them find out. I don't care what they say. Claire, I see you. The real you. And I'm not afraid. Her breath hitched, and for a moment, she just stared at me as if I'd spoken the one truth she'd been waiting to hear. Then slowly she leaned in. The kiss was hesitant at first, like she was testing the edges of a cliff before leaping. But when my hand slid up to cup her face, when she exhaled against my lips as if surrendering a weight too heavy to carry alone, the hesitation shattered. The storm outside howled, but inside we were drowning in a different kind of chaos, one that felt like salvation. The morning after was quieter. Sunlight spilled through the blinds, painting her living room in soft gold. Claire stood by the stove making coffee, her hair messy, her sweater slipping from one shoulder. She looked younger somehow, softer, like the night had stripped away years of grief. I sat at the table, chin propped in my hands watching her. And for the first time I thought this could be home. But the illusion didn't last long. By Monday the whispers turned venomous. Parents started complaining. The principal called Claire into his office, and when she emerged, her face was pale, lips pressed into a thin line. That afternoon she pulled me aside. "We can't do this anymore," she said, her voice trembling even as she tried to make it sound firm. "I could lose my job. Emily deserves stability, not scandal." My chest tightened, but I refused to let her push me away without a fight. "You think love is a scandal?" I snapped. "Don't," she whispered sharply. "Don't call it that." "Then what is it?" I demanded. Her silence was worse than any answer. She walked away before I could stop her, and for days I lived in the hollow ache of absence. But love doesn't vanish just because fear demands it. It lingers in the cracks in every memory, in the way the world feels emptier without the other person in it. And it lingered in us. One evening I drove past her house, unable to resist. The lights were on, and through the window I saw her sitting at the table, head in her hands, Emily drawing quietly beside her. The sight broke something in me. I parked down the street, hands gripping the steering wheel, fighting the urge to knock on her door and beg her to let me in. That was when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Stop seeing her. Think about the child. My blood ran cold. Someone knew. Someone was watching. The threats escalated quickly. Slipped notes in my mailbox, harsh whispers in grocery aisles, strangers lingering too long when I walked to my car at night. Rosewood wasn't just gossiping anymore. It was warning me. I wanted to tell Claire, but how could I? She was already breaking under the weight of her own battles. I couldn't add mine to hers. So I swallowed the fear, tried to act normal, and told myself I could handle it. Until the night the threats found her too. She called me, her voice shaking. "There was a note on my porch," said. "Bad mothers make bad choices. Olivia, they know. They're coming after me now." That was the moment I realized love wasn't our biggest danger. Hate was. And yet, even in the middle of all that darkness, we found light. One evening, after Emily had gone to bed, Claire sat across from me at the kitchen table. Her hands trembled as she laced her fingers together. "I keep asking myself if this is worth it," she admitted. "If risking everything, me job, my daughter's peace is worth one person." I reached across the table, took her hand in mine and whispered, "It's not one person. It's love. And love is always worth it." Tears filled her eyes, but this time she didn't pull away. She squeezed my hand and whispered back, "Then we'll fight. Together." And just like that, the battle lines were drawn. We weren't just two women in love anymore. We were warriors, standing against a town determined to tear us apart. And though the road ahead was terrifying, for the first time I believed we could win. Because Claire Monroe wasn't just the teacher carrying a heavy past. She was the woman who chose to love me despite it. And I was the girl who refused to let her go. The following weeks felt like walking on a tightrope stretched over fire. On the surface, life went on. Students filled classrooms. Neighbors waved politely from their porches. The town's diner served the same greasy burgers under buzzing neon lights. But underneath, everything had shifted. The air felt sharper, every glance heavier, every word laced with suspicion. Claire and I lived in stolen moments. A brief touch of her hand when no one was looking, a lingering glance across a crowded hallway, a few whispered words exchanged in the empty classroom after hours. They were crumbs, and yet I clung to them like they were feasts. But the threats didn't stop. Another note appeared, this time shoved under the windshield wiper of my car. "People like you don't belong here." I wanted to laugh it off, to pretend the words didn't sink deep, but when I showed it to Claire, her face went pale. "This has to stop," she said, her voice firm but trembling. "Olivia, I won't let them hurt you." "You think I'm afraid of them?" I shot back. "The only thing I'm afraid of is losing you." Her eyes softened, but she shook her head. "I can handle the judgment, the whispers. But if anything happened to Emily because of this," her voice broke. "She's my whole world." I reached for her, but she pulled away, and that cut deeper than the threats ever could. The breaking point came one Saturday afternoon. We had taken Emily to the park, trying to pretend we were just two women sharing custody of a sunny day. Emily laughed as she ran across the grass, her curls bouncing, her tiny voice singing nonsense songs to herself. For a moment it felt normal. For a moment it felt like family. But then I noticed them. Two mothers from Emily's school, standing by the swings, whispering to each other while their eyes flicked toward us. Their mouths curled into sneers. And then one of them said it loud enough for me to hear. No wonder the poor girl doesn't stand a chance with a mother like that. The words sliced through me. I spun around, ready to tear into them, but Claire's hand gripped my arm. Her voice was steady but her eyes burned. Not here. Not in front of Emily. I swallowed the fury but it stayed simmering under my skin. That night I couldn't hold back anymore. How long are we supposed to take this? I demanded. How long do we let them dictate our lives? Claire's shoulders slumped, her face etched with exhaustion. Until Emily's safe. And what about us? My voice cracked. When do we get to be safe? The silence that followed was suffocating. It was Emily who broke the spell days later. She had been unusually quiet during dinner, poking at her mashed potatoes. Finally, she looked up, her little brow furrowed. "Mommy, why are people mean to you?" Claire froze, her fork halfway to her mouth. "Who told you that, sweetheart?" "I heard Mrs. Keller at school. She said you were bad. But you're not bad. You make pancakes and read stories and Olivia makes you smile." The tears that filled Claire's eyes nearly undid me. She reached across the table, pulling her daughter into her arms, whispering, "You're right, baby. I'm not bad. And neither is Olivia. People just don't always understand." Emily's innocent gaze flicked to me. "Does that mean you love her?" The room went still. Claire's lips parted, but no sound came out. My heart pounded, waiting, terrified. Finally she whispered, "Yes. It means I love her." And just like that, the truth we had been dancing around for months was laid bare by a child who understood love better than the town ever would. But truth had consequences. News spread faster than wildfire. I don't know who heard Emily's words first, or how the story twisted, but within a week, Rosewood wasn't just whispering, it was roaring. Parents complained louder, teachers avoided Claire in the halls, and someone even scrawled sinners in chalk across her driveway one night. I was furious. She was breaking. I could see the slump of her shoulders, the way she jumped at every sound outside the window, the way she kept apologizing to Emily for things she couldn't control. And yet, even in the middle of all that ugliness, there were moments of light. Like the night we curled up on her couch, Emily asleep upstairs, the sound of the rain tapping against the windows. Claire laid her head on my shoulder and whispered, "I used to think my heart was too broken to love again. But you make it beat like it remembers how." I kissed her hair, breathing her in, and whispered back, "Then let's teach it to keep beating. Together." Still, the town wasn't finished with us. One evening, Claire received a letter from the school board. A meeting had been scheduled. Complaints from parents. Questions about her professional conduct. It was clear what they wanted. Her resignation. She sat at the kitchen table, letter trembling in her hands. "They're going to fire me." "Then fight them," I urged. "You've done nothing wrong." Her laugh was hollow. "You think the truth matters here? They'll paint me as unstable, immoral, unfit to teach. Then let me stand with you." Her eyes snapped to mine, filled with both fear and something else, hope. "Olivia, if you do this, they'll drag you down too." "Then let them try," I whispered fiercely. "I won't let them destroy you. I won't let them destroy us." The night of the board meeting arrived. The school gymnasium was packed, parents, teachers, townspeople, all buzzing with judgment. Claire sat at the long table in front, her hands folded tightly, her face pale but resolute. I sat in the crowd, my heart pounding, watching as accusations were hurled like stones. "She's setting a bad example for our children. She brings her personal life into the classroom. She's dangerous." Each word was a dagger, but Claire didn't flinch. When her turn came to speak, she stood slowly, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "I am not dangerous. I am not unfit. I am a teacher who loves her students and a mother who would do anything for her child. And yes, I love Olivia. But that doesn't make me less of an educator, less of a mother, or less of a person worthy of respect." A hush fell over the room. I don't know what came over me, but I stood, my voice ringing through the silence. "And I love her. You can call it wrong, you can call it scandal, but it's love. And if Rosewood is the kind of town that punishes love, then maybe it's not the town we thought it was. The room erupted half in outrage, half in stunned silence. But in that moment none of it mattered. Claire's eyes met mine across the crowd, and for the first time, I saw something stronger than fear in them. I saw courage. That night, when we finally collapsed into each other's arms, she whispered against my lips, "No matter what happens next, I won't run anymore." And I believed her. The night after the board meeting felt like stepping out of a war zone. We had walked into that gym with our hearts trembling and walked out with bruises invisible but deep. The decision hadn't come that night, they wanted time to deliberate, but we both knew what it meant. Rosewood didn't change overnight. Still, something had shifted. The whispers continued, the stares burned holes in our backs, but now instead of bending under them, Claire held her chin a little higher. When I asked her why, she smiled faintly and said, "Because I'm not hiding anymore." The waiting was brutal. Days stretched long, each one filled with tension, each phone call from the school making her flinch. Emily sensed it too. She clung to her mother tighter at bedtime, asked more questions we weren't sure how to answer. One night, after reading Emily to sleep, Claire came downstairs and found me curled on the couch with my knees pulled to my chest. She sat beside me, her hand warm on my leg. "Olivia," she whispered, "if I lose my job." "You won't lose me," I finished for her. Her breath caught, and in that silence, something sacred passed between us. Not just promises of love, but of permanence. Of building something no one could take away. The verdict came on a Wednesday. The board called Claire into the office and told her she would be placed on administrative leave, pending review. In Rosewood speak, that meant, "We can't fire you outright without backlash, but we'll make you so uncomfortable you'll leave on your own." She drove to my apartment that night, shoulders heavy, her eyes hollow. I thought she'd collapse into despair, but instead she surprised me. "I'm done," she said. "I'm done letting them control me. Olivia, I want to leave this town." My heart lurched. Leave? Where would we go? Anywhere. Somewhere Emily can grow up without being poisoned by whispers. Somewhere we can love without being hunted for it. I stared at her, tears burning my eyes. The idea terrified me, starting over. Leaving everything I knew, but the thought of life without her terrified me more. So I nodded. "Then let's go." The decision sparked something fierce in her. Over the next weeks, Claire sold her house, boxed up her life, and faced the stairs with a steadiness that silenced even the boldest gossip. I helped every step of the way, carrying boxes, making calls, distracting Emily with games and laughter. The night before we left, we had one last dinner in her empty kitchen. Pizza from a box, paper plates, laughter echoing off bare walls. Emily fell asleep early, her small hand curled around a stuffed rabbit. Claire and I sat on the floor with a bottle of cheap wine. She leaned against me, her head heavy on my shoulder. "You saved me," she whispered. I kissed her hair. "No. You saved yourself. I just refused to let you forget how strong you are." She lifted her face then, her eyes glistening. "I love you, Olivia. I don't care where we go, as long as you're with me." And when I kissed her, it wasn't hesitant or stolen or afraid. It was the kiss of a woman who had finally claimed her life back. We left Rosewood at dawn. The car was crammed with boxes, Emily's laughter spilling from the back seat as she clutched her stuffed rabbit. The town blurred in the rearview mirror, porches, steeples, all the ghosts of whispered hate fading into distance. Claire reached for my hand across the console. Our fingers laced, steady, unbreakable. "Ready?" she asked. I smiled. For the first time in my life, yeah. We ended up in a small coastal town in Oregon. A place with sea air that smelled like freedom, streets painted with murals instead of prejudice, and neighbors who waved without suspicion. Claire found work tutoring at a community center, and soon after, at a nearby school that welcomed her with open arms. Emily thrived. She made friends quickly, her laughter brighter, her world bigger. She told anyone who asked that she had two people who loved her, one she called Mommy and one she simply called Olivia, like it was the most natural thing in the world. And maybe it was. One evening months later, we sat on the beach watching Emily build castles in the sand. The sun dipped low, the sky on fire with pink and gold. Claire leaned into me, her hand resting over mine. "You know," she said softly, "for so long I thought love was something I didn't deserve. That it was for other people, people who hadn't made mistakes, people who didn't carry scars. I kissed the side of her head. Scars mean you've survived. And you deserve the world, Claire. Her eyes shimmered as she turned to me. Then promise me something. Promise me that no matter what comes, you won't stop fighting for us. I held her gaze steady and fierce. I promise. Always. And as Emily ran back to us, sand clinging to her tiny hands, giggling about seashells, I realized this was it. Not the town's whispers. Not the fear. Not the shadows of the past. This Claire's smile, Emily's laughter. The warmth of a love we had bled for, this was the future. Our future. Love hadn't just survived in the cracks. It had grown roots in the ruin, bloomed in the storm, and built a home in the unlikeliest of places. Two broken hearts finding each other, and a child who gave them the courage to heal. And as the waves lapped the shore, Claire's fingers entwined with mine, I knew with certainty that my heart would always race whenever her eyes met mine. Not because of fear, but because I had finally found the kind of love worth losing everything for. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.